For years, gardeners have been told the same message. If you want rich soil, you must make compost. Build a pile, balance the greens and browns, turn it every week, and wait months before you finally get something that can be used in the garden. But this is where most of us lose heart. Piles take space, energy, and time, and even when finished, the material still has to be hauled into the beds. After chasing compost piles for too long, I finally stopped. What replaced it was a lazy but highly effective approach that gave me humus-rich soil faster than the traditional heap ever did. Humus forms naturally when soil life is given steady food. Humus is the dark, stable fraction of organic matter that makes soil fertile and resilient. It improves water holding, feeds plants over time, and keeps microbes active. What many gardeners miss, you know, is that humus does not require a perfectly balanced compost pile to appear. In forests, no one turns a heap, yet the floor is covered with soft, black, humus-rich soil. Leaves, sticks, fruit, and plant litter just break down slowly at the surface, layer by layer, until the soil beneath becomes dark and crumbly. The trick is to let the garden mimic this natural system. By keeping organic matter where it belongs, on the soil, the work of decomposition is handed over to worms, fungi, and microbes. Rotten slurry feeding delivers fast nutrition. One of the simplest methods is turning kitchen scraps into a slurry and pouring it directly onto the soil. The process is quick blend. 1 part food scraps with 2 parts water until it becomes liquid. This can include fruit peels, soft vegetables, or even weeds pulled from the garden. The slurry seeps straight into the soil where microbes and worms attack it immediately. Unlike whole scraps that sit for weeks before breaking down, slurry is already in a half-digested form. So here's a practical example. Pouring about 2 litres of this mixture around crops like tomatoes or peppers every 2 weeks. And, you know, after just a month, the soil in that area turns noticeably darker and looser, and you'll spot worm activity becoming quite obvious. Without ever turning a pile, the soil itself actually begins producing humus. Another effective method, by the way, is what can be called layer and leave. Rather than mixing carbon and nitrogen materials into a pile, they are, placed directly onto the garden bed. A layer of fresh grass clippings, about 5 centimeters thick, can be spread over the soil and then, followed by a dry layer of leaves, straw, or even shredded cardboard. This simple alternation actually prevents slimy rot while ensuring steady decomposition. Over the course of weeks, moisture softens the layers, and earthworms, those little helpers of the garden, start dragging bits down into the soil. It's quite fascinating, really. By 2 to 3 months, the lower layers begin to look black and spongy, the first stages of humus. It's a beautiful transformation, isn't it? A gardener who maintains a 10-centimeter mulch layer this way rarely has to weed, waters less often, and constantly builds humus right in the root zone. It's truly a rewarding process. Scraps that rot in place mimic the forest floor, you know. Instead of hauling kitchen waste to a bin, the lazy gardener can just let it rot exactly where plants grow. Chopping up melon rinds, lettuce stems, or banana peels and slipping them under a mulch cover, that gives soil organisms a steady food source. You see, the mulch hides the scraps from pests and locks in moisture, so decomposition happens smoothly. For instance, placing chopped banana peels beneath mulch near squash plants feeds potassium directly into the soil, while also creating a small patch of humus as it rots. Over the season, repeating this with small amounts of waste builds a soil surface that begins to look like woodland ground, dark, rich and teeming with worms. The classic compost pile. It tries to accelerate breakdown in one place, but it does delay soil feeding until the pile is completely done. Even then, the gardener has to spread that finished compost. By contrast, these lazy methods, well, they cut out the middleman altogether. With these methods, the scraps and clippings go directly to the soil, where life is eagerly waiting to work on them. Microbes get fresh food continuously, worms don't need to travel far, and the soil's fertility is renewed daily rather than in big doses. It's quite efficient, really. Over time, this leads to a soil system that, constantly produces humus on its own. The result is, well, healthier plants and less labor for the gardener. Choose one garden bed to start. Save kitchen scraps through the week, then blend them with water into a slurry and pour it over the soil once every 2 weeks. Collect grass clippings after mowing and spread them in a 5 centimeter layer, followed by equal thickness of dry leaves or shredded cardboard. As new scraps appear, chop them finely and tuck them under the mulch near your crops. So, just continue this simple cycle. Within one season, you'll notice the soil in that bed becomes darker, softer, and full of worm tunnels. Plants will show stronger growth, and you'll see that watering needs really do decrease quite noticeably. By the next season, you'll have a bed that produces humus continuously, and you'll never have to manage a pile again. Chasing compost piles is not the only road to humus. Nature shows that humus forms when organic matter is allowed to break down slowly in place. By using simple methods like slurry feeding, layer and leave mulching, and letting scraps rot beneath mulch, gardeners can build humus faster and with far less work. The lazy approach is also the smarter one because it keeps soil life active every day and creates fertility right where plants need it. If this method has given you fresh ideas for your garden, subscribe to Soil Doctor and share this guide with other gardeners who are ready to stop chasing piles and start building humus the easy way.